Boom, there you go. That was the trailer for Romeo versus Juliet, a Kill Shakespearean Adventure graphic novel available right now from the amazing Anthony Del Col, as well as Stefan Tosheff. Did I get that right, Heather?
Tosheff.
Top it. The amazing creative team behind Romeo versus Juliet, and we're going to discuss it right now with, as you see on the screen, the amazing Anthony Del Col, and of course my pal Heather, our resident theater kid comics retailer. Heather is joining me as well. Thank you, Anthony, for your time. I'm ready to have some fun, but again, my theater kid, my comics hit cat, my pal Heather, I'm gonna kind of let her loose a little bit, and then I'll chime in every now and then because, you know, even though I'm the creator like yourself, she's got a lot of thoughts because, you know, as we talked earlier, as we started, theater kids, y'all kind of, well, you know, you just are, you just do. Go ahead, Heather.
We work on a whole nother wavelength.
It's true. We still thank our theater teacher, our high school theater teachers, 45 years after we leave high school. That's how it goes.
It's very true. It's very true. Like if you have a good English teacher or drama teacher in high school, you will remember them for the rest of your life. You remember all the details, like what their names are, what they're like, even scent. Like I remember what George Cribbs up in Roland Mitchell Secondary School in South Porcupine, Ontario smelled like at the time.
Oh, that's an interesting one, but you know, I accept that. I'm actually still Facebook friends with my teacher. I get Girl Scout cookies from her, you know, and you know, it's one of those where when she decided to retire, she offered me to actually help substitute for a a little bit because, you know, it's
what?
Yeah,
wow. Teacher's pet. It's teacher's pet over there, huh?
And the thing is, I wasn't, but let's talk about some Shakespeare. And I actually get talk a lot about Shakespeare this week, and I'm really excited for that. Kill Shakespeare is actually a very interesting story. You can actually look at it from like comics history kind of way. It's been going on since 2010. Anthony, though, I'm going to be very honest with you. I was a comic retailer. I did sell this story. Usually in graphic novel, issues were a little bit slower. So I wanted to do this in twofold. Can you please explain the story of Kill Shakespeare to a wider audience so that we can introduce more people to it and kind of talk about maybe some of the difficulties when it comes to indies like Kill Shakespeare and how you can keep pushing forward because this is your third story with it.
Yeah, I mean, Kill Shakespeare, for those that have no exposure to it at all, Kill Shakespeare is an action-adventure story where we take all of Shakespeare's greatest heroes and his most menacing villains, we put them all together in the same world, same story, same adventure. It's sort of like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings with Shakespeare's characters. Or, from a comic geek perspective, it's the Justice League of Shakespeare. As you said, it came out in 2010. We've published up until last year, we published 5 volumes of Kill Shakespeare. We have an audio drama with Audible Germany, of all places, not Audible UK or Canada or the US. We have a stage show that's played in 36 cities worldwide, a board game, and we've been through TV development hell and back. But yeah, so it's a very simple concept. I mean, it's just, you've heard of, everyone listening to this or watching this, you've heard of Hamlet, you've heard of Juliet, you've heard of Othello and Falstaff and Puck. And we're just bringing them all together. You don't need to have read anything or you can have very little or no knowledge of these characters or the original plays. As long as you know who the characters are, it's easy to get into. It's very accessible. And one of the proudest accomplishments we've had over the years is that we've had so many teachers and even students that have come to us and said, Kill Shakespeare has been a gateway drug. And that's my terminology, not their terminology, but it's sort of an entry point into Shakespeare. I remember the first piece of fan mail we ever received was from a 14-year-old girl in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador up in Canada. And she said that she had read Romeo and Juliet in class. She hated it. She thought Juliet was whiny. She just didn't like her. And then her cool aunt gave her Kill Shakespeare. She read it. She loved it. And now she's excited to read Hamlet. And to get a piece of mail like that and that sort of feedback is just phenomenal. In terms of the second part of your question, in terms getting indie books out there, it's tough. It's an uphill battle. It's not just indie comics, it's indie books, it's indie film, it's indie podcasts, it's everything. It's just tough. It's just tough to get out there. I think one of the reasons that Kill Shakespeare flourished, especially at the beginning, was that we had that built-in audience. I mean, unlike an original story where if it's set in space and it's a love story, even if it's inspired by Romeo and Juliet. I mean, there's so many stories that are inspired by Romeo and Juliet. There's so many sci-fi stories, but we're incorporating characters that people around the world, millions and millions, if not billions of people, are aware of and are familiar with. So I think that's what allowed us to succeed right out of the race. As you said, when you were at the store, you sold more graphic novels than individual monthly issues, and that is definitely the case. And that's why Romeo versus Juliet is just we've gone straight to graphic novel because our buyer, our traditional reader, is not the kind of person that'll go to the comic book shop every month. But they will go onto Amazon. They'll go to Barnes and Noble. They'll go to bookshop.org. They'll go to anywhere you can get graphic novels and pick it up there. And so that's why we've really figured out over the years, it's taken us 15 years. No, over the years, we figured out who our reader is, who our audience is, and we're trying to create material specifically for them.
And that's actually something, Kuya P, I'm sorry, I hope I didn't interrupt you at all.
No worries.
That's actually something that we've talked about as a comic retailer. I've actually sat in conversations with Aftershock Comics, which is no longer with us, but with Image Comics, with IDW. We've talked about indie publication, the benefits of having trade paperback versus issues. And there have been many, many stories that have shifted to a trade paperback format only for that exact same reason. They might have done 50 monthly issues and realized, you know what, I can't sell more than 10. Let's just go straight to trade paperback. And it's a strong decision. It's an interesting way to actually see how the comics industry has changed over time. With that being said, once again, you have, as you said, y'all have gone everywhere, and honestly, I've actually seen the board game more than I've seen the trade paperback out there at times.
What?
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a couple of friends who I go to we'll go to a comic convention and it'll be out there. I'll be like, all right, rock on. And you made a point. Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to tag this in. You made a point about Hamlet. For those of you out there, you have seen Hamlet. You have learned Hamlet. If you have watched Lion King, you have done Hamlet before. I always love that. It's don't think you don't know Shakespeare. You have watched it probably a dozen times, and that's one of my favorite things. All right, so let's move on. So the greater world. We are now moving out. Romeo versus Juliet is no longer. It's yes, it was always this wide swath of characters, but Romeo versus Juliet is kind of creating a more expansive universe, so to speak. What was it like developing this story, and why did you decide to kind of follow Juliet's story more precisely?
We followed Juliet's story. I mean, to go to the last part of the question, we followed it because she basically came to us and hit us over the head and said, "It's my story now, dummies." I think that's the exact Shakespeare quote. No, I mean, in terms of how we set up. So with the history of Kill Shakespeare, as you mentioned, it was launched in 2010. We put out 5 volumes, as well as an omnibus that collected the first 2. And then it kind of went on hiatus. We fell into that sort of void. We were published by IDW at the time. And as you know, I mean, IDW has gone through a lot of upheaval. Most of the staff, every single staff member, every single staff that was there, during their halcyon years, they all kind of left. And so Kill Shakespeare, unfortunately, was a victim of that, where we were just lying dormant for a number of years. It took us a while to get the rights back, the comic rights back. In fact, we were in 2023, we were able to get all the rights back. So audio, board game, comic, film and TV, everything. So it all came back. So while we were doing that, that's when I sat down and was like, okay, we're going to get everything back. I'm going to get to play in the sandbox again. What's the story I want to tell? And it was a central image, the image of a high noon style standoff between Romeo and Juliet. It just came to my mind, and this is how often, especially in the comics world, it's an image pops up, and that was the image that popped up in my mind. I was like, okay, what is that story? And then I kind of built everything back from there. And spoiler alert, Romeo versus Juliet culminates in the standoff between the two of them. But yeah, so I mean, that's where I realized, okay, if it's a standoff, does that mean it's going to be Western genre? I'd wanted to write something in the Western genre forever. I'm a fan of the classic 50s films, High Noon and The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, 50s and 60s, that sort of thing. Even The Magnificent Seven. And the unofficial tagline for Romeo versus Juliet, it's the Magnificent Shakespeare Seven. And that's why I actually incorporated their seven characters into it. Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent now. So it was the Western genre, and I also wanted, because it had been a while since we'd published a book in the Kill Shakespeare series, I wanted to create a story that was accessible for everybody. So if it had been 7 years since you read Kill Shakespeare, this is an easy way to get back into it. And again, if you'd never read Kill Shakespeare or anything we'd done before, you can easily get into this because the title, like Romeo, Juliet, we all know that story. And even if there's some plot points or some character points that you're not familiar with at the very beginning, you quickly get into and realize, oh, okay, she is this because this happened to her, this happened to him, et cetera, et cetera. And to go back to the original ending of the question, Juliet, she's just a fascinating character. And we start off with Hamlet as our main character in the original version of Kill Shakespeare. And then as it went on, Juliet just kind of came to the foreground and to the forefront of everything, and realized like she's got such a fascinating leadership style. She's fascinating in terms of like her own past, what she's been trying to overcome, and then what she's trying to do in this world. And so just kind of, like I said, she came out and smacked us over the head. Of course, I'm the protagonist now, dummy.
Absolutely. Creepy, you got a question over there? I
Yeah,
see you kind
I wanted
of.
to expand on the Magnificent Shakespearean Seven. That grabbed me as a film guy, but also I'm a process, as a creative. So I'm curious, when you were putting this together, finding your through line, you wanted to go with Juliet, and then kind of just assembling the rest of the story around her. If you could just talk about some of the joy of figuring out, this Magnificent Shakespearean Seven and all of that, and then bringing on Stefan and that process of collaboration with from your end as the writer and him as the artist, and then that back and forth and giving notes while the process of making this book.
My favorite part of the process, I'm Canadian, so I say process and not process. I don't know why. I
Oh,
hope you
good. I love
please
Canada.
don't hold
It's
any
where I want to
against
go
me.
right now.
Yeah. I got maple syrup tapped in my veins. My favorite part of the process, but also the most difficult, is coming up with the actual story. Like what exactly, like what is it going to be? What are the major, what are the major story points? What are the major character points? And so one of the things I actually do is how many pages is this going to be? And so right from the very get-go, myself and Gemstone, the publisher, so I think I neglected to mention this is published by Gemstone. They came onto the project about a year and a half ago. They republished the first two volumes as Kill Shakespeare First Folio back in this past October. One of the first things, how many pages am I going to get for this? They said, you got 120? Okay. And so I break it down. So here, what happens on page 1, what happens on page 120, break it up into the cliffhangers, the turns, the acts. There's a 5-act structure here, which is almost similar to a 5-act comic structure or 5-issue comic structure. And so, yeah, I kind of break it down that way. And I mean, very early on, I realized this was the Magnificent Seven, like a warrior, a gun for hire, is asked or tasked with protecting like a small town. I mean, even I was watching A Bug's Life this past weekend with my kids, and it reminded me, oh, wait, even that's a Western genre. And so I realized that's what it was going to be. And then as soon as I realized that, I was like, oh, it is Magnificent Shakespeare 7. And so she's going to have to recruit a bunch of Shakespeare's characters. So you've got Hamlet, you've got Puck, you've got all these others that are thrown into the mix. And then in terms of Stefan, I early on in the process, after I come up with the concept, I'd started writing. I think I had probably the first act completed. And then I went to a very good friend of mine, Keith Morris, and he's sort of my artist whisperer. He keeps his ear and his eyes to the ground, and he knows he's a great talent spotter or scout. And so I said, "Hey, do you have someone that would be great for? We're bringing back Kill Shakespeare. It's gonna be Romeo versus Juliet. It's Western." He's like, "Nope, I know the perfect person, and he's Canadian too, Anthony." And so he sent me his portfolio. I looked through it. I'm like, "Yeah, this is perfect. This is perfect." And then I sat with him, and Not only is his art similar to the original Kill Shakespeare artist, Andy Belanger, but Stefan has sort of a similar temperament too. Like he's kind of a rock and roll punk guy. He actually plays in a punk band when he's not drawing. And so just from a personality perspective, from a story perspective, and from an art perspective, it's like this guy's going to be perfect for it. And again, it's nice to work with fellow Canadians. That way, although it means that we're all tariffed at 25% at least. So
It's true. It's true. It's just being a Canadian, we're actually getting tariffed for this podcast right
that's true. Yes, yes. I
now.
apologize. Yes.
One final question for you as we go on, because we do want to make sure that we get the crux of this really going. Romeo and Juliet is such a classic tale. Why do you think so? And why was it so integral to make them part of that seven? Because I think as a Shakespeare, as a fan of the Bard, it's always important to talk about the characters that he's created and why,
Yeah.
and how you feel empowered with them.
I mean, I will be honest, Romeo and Juliet is not my favorite of Shakespeare's plays. I mean, that kind of goes to Hamlet and Othello are kind of battling out neck and neck. For one of them has a rapier, the other one has a sword or has a pillow, and they're constantly battling. Um, But no, I mean, it's not my favorite, but I do have a lot of respect for it. And why is it so popular? I mean, it's created the template and the tropes for teen romance and just romance in general. Like when people think of a romance story, Romeo and Juliet is the first thing that comes to mind. And yes, it's cliched, and you've seen it so often. I overheard at the playground a week ago a bunch of girls that were like, they were talking about they were theater kids, but they were talking about Romeo and Juliet, and one's like, "Ugh, I hate that play. Ugh, it was disgusting. It was horrible." And everyone's like, yeah, but you have to understand it created all the tropes. Like it created what the genre, it created an entire genre. And so because of that, it has to be respected. And that's why it's been so popular. I think a lot of people can get into the individual characters. Like people can understand Romeo, they can understand Juliet, especially when they start to appreciate the fact that there are 14, arguably 14 in 13 or 14 in the actual story. And that's why they're so rash and et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, there's drugs and there's fantasy. And I mean, all the tropes that are in everything today. You can follow that from Romeo and Juliet through to Euphoria or whatever else is popular these days. And then why was it key to bring into this one? Again, Juliet has become the lead of the Kill Shakespeare series. Um, that started that started with volume three with the Tide of Blood, which is our sort of our horror genre. They go to an island full of horrors and temptations, et cetera, et cetera. And she became the lead at that point. So much so that volume five is sort of her backstory, like where did she come from the original play to where she comes into the Kill Shakespeare universe. And if she's involved, then that means Hamlet's involved because there's been a romance in the past between them, and then Romeo obviously still has feelings. So I mean, to me, it's the perfect love triangle. We have these two people who fell in love passionately 5 or 6 years ago when they were younger. Now they're sort of on opposite ends, but that feeling is still there. The passion is still there, both in a positive as well as a negative light. And then you throw Hamlet, arguably the most dramatic, outgoing character ever created, and I think I would argue the greatest character ever created. You throw him into the mix, and all of a sudden you got this love. To me, it's the ultimate love triangle that plays out in the backdrop of this magnificent Shakespeare Seven.
Absolutely. I want to argue Hamlet, but I really can't. I'm just like,
I know. We could go on
yeah.
for 30 minutes about it. Yes, I
I was,
know.
I was, I can argue. Othello is my favorite Shakespearean play. Midsummer, of course, it's just fun and silly and goofy, and that's why you love that play so much. But it's one of those where it's like Othello is it's just a stronger play, and then you're like, well, yeah, Hamlet's just as a character stronger. It's unfortunate but true.
And, yeah,
Gotta have this.
I'll
Go
agree
ahead,
with
go.
you. I will agree with you 100% on that, Jay. I think Othello as a play is more interesting, but Hamlet as a
Mhm.
character is more interesting than any other that Shakespeare wrote.
Yeah, I gotta have that mediocre rich white guy. Has got to be the best one. I just gotta say it.
Anthony, thank you for sharing with us, this amazing project, Romeo versus Juliet, Kill Shakespearean Adventure. We appreciate your time. For those that might be listening to this as they're driving, because as you know, we live in DC, the Virginia area. A lot of times when we do these podcasts, we're also commuting and
Oh
stuck
yeah.
in traffic. Um, are there ways that our fans can follow you, check you out online, and also maybe highlight anything else that you have coming out as well very soon?
Absolutely. I mean, the best place to find out more about Kill Shakespeare or Romeo versus Juliet, go to killshakespeare.com. That has all the information about the entire series and about ourselves. That also includes links for myself. I'm on all the social media sites at Anthony Del Col on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. Yes, Twitter. Blue Sky, Facebook, all the others. But yeah, if you go to killshakespeare.com, you'll find me. You'll find the links to everything. You'll find out more about the wonderful world of Kill Shakespeare, everything that we've done, and we've tried to make the site not too Canadian. In terms of other things, I recently had an audio thriller. Since you're listening in podcasts, since some people will be listening, I created a BBC thriller series, an audio series that was released back in January of this year, called "Don't Listen to This." It's set in the world of esports about a top gamer who mysteriously dies, and his former team psychologist investigates it, and goes towards a mysterious cutscene, audio from a cutscene that if you listen to it, you'll die within an hour. So it's The Ring set in the world of esports.
Okay.
I was seeing some of that write up. I was like, wow, where do you find the time? I know I'm trying to find the time all the time, Anthony. So it's just, it's wild, but it's what we love, you know? We just do
it. It's what we love, and one of the great things about working on Romeo versus Juliet or anything is just be able to connect with people like the two of you and the listeners, because you guys like to geek out on really cool pop, anything in the world, in the pop culture world. I mean, just to chat about and debate Othello versus Hamlet with Heather like that. I mean, this is just this is one of the great things. Yeah,
that's an argument for a different day, for sure.
Round two. Anthony, you bring the pillow, I bring the sword.
Yeah, I do have an undercut there. You also have a ghost on your side. That's just not fair. Come on.
Yeah, but you have Iago, arguably like the world's greatest villain.
That's true. I do like the bad guys, so that might be why.
Awesome. The amazing Anthony Del Col, y'all. Thank you so much for coming on, Anthony. We appreciate your time. We'd love to have you back as other projects come along so we could throw you some virtual flowers. And I definitely got to bring Heather on to just bard and battle with you.
Yeah, bard it out, baby.
Heather Hurt, I'm Kuya P. Nerds rule the world, y'all. All right, there's a cut.
Nerds rule the world.
Pleasure chatting with you. Love to all my nerds who rule the world.
Yeah. Nerds rule the world.
Yes, we do.
Thanks. Nerds rule the world. Thank you.
I love the nerds ruling the world, so more power to you.
Patrick, what up, man? And yes, they do. Nerds rule the world, kid.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Awesome. Kuya P, nerds rule the world. Hello. Yes, they do.
Yes.
Oh,
nerds rule the world.
I got.
It's in the title of your show, like nerds rule the world. Like I want more black weirdos on screen, and I don't feel like we ever get to see that very much.
Thank you so much. Nerds do rule the world.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Nerds rule.
Love it. Hello, Sarah. Hello, Juliet.
Yes, nerds rule. Yes.
Rock on. I love it. Thank you so much.
It's good to see you. I love Nerds Rule the World.
But yeah, there's a heavy nerd component, man.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you ask me, nerds rule the world. So
absolutely.
And you're right. Nerds do rule the world.
We're just the best.
Yes.
Thank you, ladies.
Nerds so much.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
It's your boy Kuya P. Nerds rule the world. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you.
They rule the world all right.
Yes. Take care, Tony. Thank you, guys. And we'll get right into it. You're all set, Heather, on your side? Awesome. All right. Thank you again, Anthony. Let's have some fun. Here we go in a 1, 2, 3.